Hey everyone, Jodie here, back with you for a tutorial, and today I'm making over this really ugly cabinet. So I'm going to need some serious paintbrushes for this, guys. It's going to take a lot of work to transform this into something completely different and creative, but I feel like I can do it. So stay tuned, grab your paintbrushes and let's go. Alright, so I have this really ugly piece of furniture behind me here. So I'm going to create a whole different look with this. It was a mega cheap piece, and sometimes cheap pieces can be really good because you're not too concerned with, ruining them or whatever. You can just create whatever kind of look that you want, and you're not really going to lose out. I'm going to paint over this glass, and I'm going to do this by using Slick Stick. So this is an adhesive primer. And what it means is I can paint this on things like glass and any kind of slippery, slick surface, and it will bond, and then it means that I can paint over the top of it. So I'm going to get started with this today. Okay, so I've left my Slick Stick to dry overnight, which is really important when you go to paint over it because otherwise it can peel off. It needs to be completely cured. I am now using a Le Petit brush, which is a mixture of natural bristles and synthetic bristles by Dixie Belle, and it has a large surface area, and I am just stippling this, which basically means I'm just dabbing the collard greens and sea spray mix onto this, and this is going to give me lots of great texture and lots of great coverage too. I have dried sage, and I am just pouring this out into the cup, as obviously as you can see here, and I am also mixing around a 50-50 solution of dried sage to water, and I am just giving this a mix because I am now going to come in with a paint wash. So using a chip brush, it's one of the premium chip brushes, I'm just applying this in sections, getting right into the grain there, and then I am getting a rag which is slightly damp, and I am just pressing on, and that again is, this technique is called ragging, and it's just going to give me some different textures. Five different colours now that I've mixed with water. I'm going to do lots of colour washing and blending at the same time, and I will talk you through all the colours that I'm using now, and they are also all listed below. So this is in the navy, and I am applying this with a synthetic scarlet brush, and then grabbing my rag and then just patting it, so I'm ragging here again as well, and this again will just create texture. I am then using palmetto and just going over the top of that within the navy. I'm totally fine with drips because this is going to be a really grungy look. I already feel like this is going to be a grungy look, so I'm totally fine with that. And again, just kind of ragging, and as you can see as I rag, because the paint is diluted, it's showing some of the other colours underneath. Next up is evergreen, and I'm going over the top of palmetto with that, kind of doing a really rough, badly blended ombre, but it's okay that it's badly blended because, as I say, it's going to be a very grungy look. And again, I am just tapping, and now I have kudzu, and I'm going over the evergreen with that. And as you can see, I'm starting with my darker colours in the right hand corner, and here is Kernel Mustard, and then blending out to the brighter colours to the top left hand corner to get a little bit of a field and sunshine look. Here now is putty and a fan brush. It's quite a large one, and I want to start creating some flowers. So I am basically now just doing some squiggly lines with my putty and outlining where I might want some stems and some branches. This is really easy. It's a very free-flowing way of painting. I am then using pine cone, which is a medium brown colour, and just very roughly going over the edge of that to create more of a more dimension. And the same again, I am using chocolate, which is a really dark brown, and I'm putting that on the outer edges. Sorry, not the outer edges, the inner edges, because I'm using my chocolate to replicate shadows on my branches. And then I am using putty on the outer edges to highlight, because this might be where the sun is hitting the stems. By adding these 3 different colours, this is what's going to give us dimension and make the tree and the stems feel less cartoony. So what I have now is some peony on an old stencil brush, and I'm just tapping this over the stems. The stems are totally dry now, and it's kind of watered down. I'm using my water mister to make sure everything's moving okay, and I am just applying this on the stems. This is going to be very kind of abstract and impressionist. It's not going to have total detail. It's going to be more the impression of blooms and flowers, and I'm now coming in with apricot over the peony, so it just goes back to that whole thing of using different shades of the same similar colour just to create depth and dimension. I now have a very small fan brush, and I'm using muscadine wine, and again I'm kind of just doing little squiggly random lines everywhere. I'm using different brushes and different techniques to create different shapes, and then I'm going over the muscadine wine again with apricot. Apricot's going to be my highlighter colour for all of the flowers here and all of the blooms, and I'm just trying to get this impression of a bit of a wild garden, or I don't know, maybe a wild scene. And I can't remember what colour that was. I think it was palmetto. Sorry, yes, it's palmetto, and I'm also just drawing some leaves here now with palmetto, and that's just kind of randomly sketching those out. So I'm just going in with different colours, different shapes and different brushes, just to create like lots of different textures that are meant to represent different flowers and leaves. I'm also now just coming in again with more apricot and just adding some more highlights to this. Just try to think where the sun's hitting it, and that's where you want your highlights to be. When I created this look, I had a bit of a marsh or moorland in mind. I have a moor near me called Ilkley Moor, and I love it, and it's very rustic to look at. So I'm now thinking, okay, let's make some grass at the bottom of here. Let's just make it look a little bit more rustic. I want this to be grungy. So I am now using some evergreen and some palmetto, and with a fan brush, just kind of randomly flicking that out in different directions to create the impression of grass. And then I thought, okay, let's come in with some holy guacamole, which is a bit of an olive colour, because obviously when you go to moors and marshlands, there's a lot of brown, to be honest with you, and that's what creates the rustic look. And also sometimes you start to see grass yellow and darken. So I also just came in now with some holy guacamole to kind of create that look. And then I'm just popping a little bit more evergreen over the top of the holy guacamole, because obviously I don't want any harsh lines. It's meant to look really blended and subtle. And then I'm coming in now with some cobalt blue and using my stencil brush again. I am just patting that all at the bottom of where the grass is, because maybe there's another flower here that has a different kind of stems and blossoms and things. And then with my fan brush, just a little fan brush again, I'm using Pure Ocean, and I am very, very lightly tapping that. So I'm kind of thinking of something like foxgloves here, and I can't remember what the flowers are called. I'm not really referencing anything, but they are thicker at the bottom and then thinner at the top, and you tend to have a lot of little small blossoms, and that's what I'm trying to create here now. So now adding a little bit of cobalt blue, which is a darker blue, over the Pure Ocean, again just to add that depth and shadowing so that it doesn't look overly cartoony. And now I have Daisy and just a very small flappy brush, just a small artist brush that's very soft and flappy. And this is a yellow, and again I'm just applying this in random areas and just doing some dots and squiggles. They don't need to look exactly like flowers, this is meant to be abstract, and I'm using my water to really dilute it down so that it has a bit more of a watercoloured look about it. Obviously it's chalk paint, it's not going to be watercoloured, but I do want it to look really soft. And then I'm also just doing some squiggly lines in the grass, because again, maybe we've got some yellow in the grass, maybe the grass is getting old, maybe it's a rustic environment. So I just encourage you just to grab lots of different colours, maybe just find a picture of a flower that you like, and then just do some really rough squiggles and dots and shapes and things to create a very abstract look of that. And you can't really go wrong, it's just really fun to do. With my fan brush, just doing some little dots around the blossoms, because what I'm thinking now is, okay, maybe there are some blossoms falling off, or maybe there are some dandelions nearby that are, you know, the Make-A-Wish dandelions that are floating around. I don't actually know what they're called, the little things that float around, the little buds, I guess. And now I'm adding some amethyst, which is a deep purple. So obviously most of my colours are in the same kind of colour group, and then I've just got a bit of yellow in there just to kind of contrast it. And I know I'm going to be sanding this back and waxing it as well, so I know that the whole thing will be softened up. I'm now using a sanding sponge by Dixie Belle, which is around a 220 grit sandpaper. It's quite soft, and I'm very softly going over all of that texture. What this will mean is that it will soften up the flowers, and also because there is sea spray underneath, some of the work that I did beforehand, you know, some of the driftwood and the darker colour that I used, that will start to also shine through to give this very grungy look. Make sure you don't go in there with anything too gritty or too much pressure. Just build up the sanding slowly and you'll start to see really good results. Alright, now it's one of my favourite parts is waxing, and I have some easy peasy spray wax, some best dang wax in black, and also some best dang wax in brown. And a lot of people hate waxing, but for me this is really where you can make a piece kind of its own and really change the whole look and style of it. So I'm starting by spraying the easy peasy spray wax to act as a base for my decorative waxes that I will put on top, and with the French tip brush, which will be really good for getting into all of that sea spray grain and texture, I'm applying this very thickly all around those edges, and I'm bringing some into the panel below. So I want this to look really old, and the brown wax is going to help me age this piece. These waxes are water based, what that means is that I can mist my rag, I can damp it down a little bit and then rub, and then it will take some of the wax off and soften it up. So what this means is that, you know, it's not so harsh and I just get a much overall softer look. Also, just want to mention that as well as being decorative, the easy peasy spray wax and the brown and black wax will all harden and protect the paint, so they are a sealer as well. I'm not coming in quite as heavy-handed into the main panel with the dark wax, because what I want more dimension, so I want it to almost look like a vignette. So the wax is going to be really dark around the edges, and then it's just going to be coming in quite softly into the middle area where the flower is. And what I will also do is I'm coming in with black wax right here at the bottom, because the bottom is most likely to become more aged because it's more exposed, and also because the darker colours are there at the bottom. I just think the black wax would work really well with that. And then I'm actually blending some of the brown wax into the black, so you can blend your waxes as well. Now I am adding a tiny little bit of brown wax to the main panel here, and this is really changing the whole mood. I hope you can see how moody this is now, and I will be doing the exact same thing on the other side as well. And I'm just kind of almost dry brushing the wax on, so I am putting a tiny bit of wax onto my brush and really putting pressure on to rub that off, which means there isn't going to be any excess. It's just going to be nice and soft. Alright, and here's the finished look. I absolutely love this piece. One of my favourite styles is romantic grunge. Let me know in the comments what your thoughts are, whether this is the kind of piece for you or you want to try a look like this. I'm always interested to hear your thoughts. So as always guys, thank you for watching and happy painting. Bye bye.